I don't know if you can hear him, but there is a bumblebee in my grass. Let me see if I can show you. Can you hear how loud his wings are when he flies? The buzzing of his bee wings is what gets the pollen off of some flowers. He is a great big bumblebee. Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. And he is hanging out right next to my vegetable garden, which is exactly where I want him to be. Being next to the vegetable garden means that he will hang out and he will help pollinate my vegetables. So when my tomatoes go in, bumblebees will come and help the flowers turn into the fruit, which is what we like to eat, is tomato fruit. So let me read you another story about bees. This is called The Bee, Friend of the Flowers. This little bee is inside of a flower. She's collecting pollen. Do you see all those little tiny yellow flecks? That is pollen. Little bees quickly learn which flowers are full of pollen and nectar. This bee will visit about 200 flowers before she goes back to her hive. In the springtime, when all the flowers start to bloom, bees visit the flowers. Flowers come in lots of different colors, but the bees see them in ultraviolet light. So that's what the flowers look like to the bees. They look like that to us, and they look like that to bees. That's pretty cool, huh? Did you know bees saw differently than you do? Oh, look. That bee is also full of pollen. Do you see this part right here? There's all that pollen stuck on that bee's leg. That is a basket. The bee has a basket of pollen. Looks like it's on a dandelion. When it's time to go back to the hive, the bee finds her way in relation to the sun. That's why bees only come out during the daytime. She can always tell where the sun is, even if the clouds cover it. This little bee is dancing with the other bees in her hive and telling them where she found the flowers with all the pollen. She's even sharing her nectar that she collected and letting them taste it. There's a little beehive. That box has about 40,000 bees in it. That's a lot of bees. A lot of buzzing. I bet it would be loud. That is a honeycomb. You can see how all the pollen is packed into the honeycomb. It's important for young bees to have all the pollen so that they have lots of food to eat while they're little. Oh, look, there's a bee's tongue. A bee's tongue is like a straw for sucking the nectar out of flowers or for putting it into the cells of a honeycomb. That's a better picture of the cells. You see all those little holes? That is where the bees lay their eggs and put honey and cover them up with beeswax to keep them safe until they're ready to hatch. Ooh, there's a better picture. Ooh, that's so cool. These cells are all filled with honey and capped with wax so that the moisture can't get in. And bees make the wax, and they make these little cells. They have special bees that just do that. They're just wax makers. To produce 2 pounds of wax, they must eat 20 pounds of honey. That's a lot of honey. It takes a lot of energy to make beeswax. This is the queen bee. She's the biggest and she lays all the eggs. All the young worker bees feed, protect, and take care of her. In the summer, the queen lays only female eggs. They will hatch into larvae in 3 days. And there's the larvae inside the cells. They have the egg and some honey and then capped with beeswax. Ooh, look, now it's a cocoon. Each larva has weaved a cocoon of silk. Then it changes and grows for 21 days and then it will become a young bee. They break out, just like baby chickens hatching from eggs. Ooh, there's a swarm of bees. When the hive is full and crowded, the bees know that they need to move on. They're looking for a hollow tree or other place to start a new home. Ooh, there's bee's eyes. He's got 2 compound eyes. Yeah. Ooh, there's a hive during the winter time. During the winter, the bees must stay in the hive to keep warm. There are too many mouths to feed, so any drones are driven out. The workers use the last warm days to complete their store of supplies and seal any cracks in the hive with wax. And then when it snows on top, the snow insulates the hive like a winter coat. It's too cold for the bees to go out. They don't like to fly in the winter. These guys are beekeepers. Bees are farmed just like sheep or cows. They're raised by beekeepers. Honeybees and silkworms are the only insects that people farm. Bees are very important insects because they pollinate flowers so that fruits and vegetables will grow. Also, in addition to the honey that we take from the bees, we can make lotion, candles, and other things from their beeswax. Oh, there's a stinger. When a bee stings another insect, the stinger comes out without any problem. But on our skin, it's held in by its elasticity and the little bumps at the bee stinger's tip. If a bee stings a person, it will leave the stinger and part of its body hooked to the person's skin. The bee will die. Bees only attack to defend their hive and not while gathering honey. We can watch them without risk on flowers, but it's a good idea not to go near a hive. Let's go back to the beekeepers. Do you see their special uniforms that they're wearing? They're wearing high boots and pants and gloves and long sleeve shirts and a special hat that has a net in front of the face. And that is so the bees cannot sting them through their uniform. Also, I heard that the white fabric helps bees to feel more calm. They don't see the white as a threat. Oh, that is not a bee. That is a cousin to the bee. That is a wasp. There's a bumblebee, like the one that I saw in my garden. This one is a carpenter bee. They like to live in the mulch and the wood. The end. Thanks for reading about bees with me. I'll see you guys soon.